Here we go, lads. The poll is in. The results are in. The Formula One Power Rankings, the top 10 drivers of 2024. Now, I'm going to go through this list as a racing driver's point of view. I'd like to know what you lads think. Do people deserve to be in the top 10? Will you think it's one or the other? Do you think someone deserves a better place than someone else, or vice versa? Let's get into it.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move. He's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front from fifth all the way to the lead in lap one.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Wow.
Okay, lads, let's get this going. So, it's been a wild, wacky Formula 1 2024. I mean, guys, we've seen team owners get grilled, gun to their head, right, with sexual assault cases. We've seen families apparently fight between team owners, etc., etc. We've seen Adrian Newey, the greatest aerodynamicist of all time, leave a team halfway through and then go to another team. It's been a wild, wacky year, lads. Unbelievable. But let's look at the top 10. Now, I gotta say, lads, and I want to try and be useful to you here. F1.com. I've said this before. I think it's the best website for Formula 1 out there, lads, okay? I mean, and I've said this before, that you'd see another website where they're saying Lewis Hamilton is officially an alien, and he was in Roswell, New Mexico when the alien spaceship crash-landed, right? You know, all this kind of wild, wacky, like National Enquirer of Formula 1 websites, okay? They're all bollocks, okay? F1.com or Formula1.com. It's both the same, points to the same website. Get your information from there, lads. These guys are the real deal. However, we are looking at F1.com today, and, you know, I'm not here to rip this apart. I just don't agree with their power rankings of 1 to 10 in the pecking order here, okay? And I'm not having a go, because it's only just my opinion at the end of the day, and it's their opinion, and it's your opinion, whatever it is, right? But let's see what you lads think, all right? So, okay, coming in at number 10, they have the fella himself, Yuki Tsunoda. Now, Yuki, in at number 10. Okay. Now, they're saying here, Yuki was another driver to produce one of their most competitive seasons to date. As we know, that season with the Red Bull number 2 team. And a run of 5 points finishes in 6 races was particularly impressive early on, as well as a special run to third on the grid during a wet qualifying session in Brazil. Okay, well, number 1, lads, I don't know if I'd put him in the top 10. I think this guy is extremely lazy. I mean, lads, if you've seen Netflix Drive to Survive, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. The guy was caught in a scene where he needed to go with his personal trainer from the team, because they all get assigned a personal trainer. And he was, okay, the personal trainer was like, let's go, Yuki, let's go. And because these lads have to keep up their energy, lads. They've got to keep up their fitness every single day. I mean, I guarantee you this, lads, all right? I know this being a racing driver myself before, and especially for F1, the amount of fitness you need is incredible. So even in this Christmas break now, lads, okay, these lads are going to have to be training every day. Now, they might take a week off, right? Maybe even 10 days. It depends on their fitness. And they might, you know, go on the piss, have a couple of drinks over Christmas, right? So even when we're discussing this right now, they might, from a couple of days before Christmas all the way up to New Year's, take a break, right? And literally go loose, go crazy. Now, they won't lose a huge edge because they're so fit that they can afford to take a week, week and a half, push it to 2 weeks maybe at Christmas, and that's it. And then they're done. They have to get back into it, right? It's very, very important as a driver. Now, you'll see with Yuki Tsunoda in Netflix, he's bitching, he's moaning, honestly, lads, it's pathetic how he goes on. It's crazy carry on. The guy's getting paid millions to be there. He's in one of the luckiest positions any racing driver could ever be at. And he's bitching, he's moaning. You'll see it in the Netflix documentary. When I saw this, I was nearly screaming at the TV. Now, okay, does it mean that he deserves number 10 or not? Well, okay, the fact that he's doing this on Netflix, it is no relation to what happened over the year. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, this is his job. This is what he's meant to do, right? If he didn't get those 5 points finishes in 6 races, well, if he got 3, you'd be saying to yourself, well, couldn't he have got more? Right? And in fact, even with the 5 points finishes in 6 races, couldn't he have got 6? Like, see, this is the point, lads. You need to be pushing the envelope all the time. You can never rest on your laurels. You can never be happy enough. You need to go striving for perfection. The bait is dangling in front of your face. You can just almost bite it, but you can never reach it properly. That's what a true champion and a true racing driver always goes for. I mean, listen, lads, watch Ayrton Senna, okay? That guy, you could watch him in a race, and he put so much effort into a race. Schumacher the same, Fangio the same, and you'd see delight on their face, but actually it wasn't even delight most of the time. It was relief because they pushed themselves so much. Now, when they did achieve a certain record, then they were incredibly happy because they're chasing that bait in front of them. And this guy certainly does not have it. Now, you can debate me on that, and I understand. That's fine. It's no problem. But I'm telling you, lads, okay, I will say one thing about Yuki. His 3rd on the grid during a wet qualifying session in Brazil, absolutely fantastic. I mean, Brazil is a tough track, lads. It's off camber, it's on camber, positive, negative camber, you know, and it's bumpy. So believe me, and I know what that's like on a bumpy track in the wet. It can be dicey, man. You know, even going into, like, you got balls when a racing driver, but even you can still go into a corner and you're like, oh shit, but you'll still push it. All right, so you'll still feel that oh. Now, of course, you do it 2 or 3 times, then you're like, oh, perfect, I can do this, no problem. Then the fear goes away. But, you know, you still have that little bit of fear. So I gotta admit, hands clapping for him here on that one. Brilliant result in 3rd, but that's his job, right? Okay, the next on the list, they're actually giving Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton equal in 8th. I don't really know how you kind of figure that one out, but Yuki's in 10th. Now they've got Pierre Gasly just above him. So even though technically he's 8th, but they are putting Hamilton just above Gasly here. But anyway, Gasly, yeah, guys, I've always said it. This guy's a fantastic racing driver. I do rate the guy. You know, I think he's solid. He's good. You know, they did have a difficult year, Alpine. And, you know, it's an underperforming car. There's no doubt about it. And coming from the Red Bull family, that's a very hard step to take, lads, right? But he's gelled perfectly. He's just adapted so quick, so fast. With an underperforming car, you know, this guy will get you a result. This is one of the guys, you know, you'll do for me, boyo. Right? If you're the team boss or the aerodynamic strategist, I want this guy in the team. Now, the guy, he's motivated. His fitness is very, very good. He's had a good year up and down. And, you know, he was there to make the most of improvements and capitalize on the improvements all throughout the year. Steady point scoring from mid-season. Yeah, very good. A brilliant podium in Brazil, all right? I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. And Gasly's one of those guys that, for some reason, when things go complete chaotic in racing terms, he manages to find a way to get to the top. Now, look, is it all down to him? Of course not, because he's done some of those in Red Bull too. But I think he does have a knack. When things go south, when there is chaos on track, Gasly can find a way to sort of see that there's a scrap over here, but then he sort of quietly goes out the back door, or even say he goes quietly up the side alley, nice and quiet, and he just gets through the mess. So he is one of those guys, very, very good. He's consistent. Like I said, he'll get you results, but most of all, Gasly is consistent. All he needs is the car, lads. Very, very good driver, very solid. Now, if you're thinking, oh my God, what are you talking about, man? I saw him on Netflix. Now, look, lads, the Netflix was, that was a clown show. It really was. The poor guy, my heart broke for that man in Netflix because I've seen racing drivers get just bullied into defeat, okay? And he didn't necessarily get bullied into defeat because the whole team turned on Pierre Gasly. You'll see this. in the Netflix. I mean, even there's one stage in Netflix where things are not going very well for him. And they're like, oh, come on, Pierre, you gotta keep going. Now, believe me here, lads. Excuse me. As an ex-racing driver, there's one moment in Netflix when his engineer comes on the phone, I was going to say the phone. He comes on the radio to him. And now, as we all know, when they're on the radio, you can hear them, right? We can all hear it as a spectator watching. And he goes, look, Pierre, this is not enough. This is not acceptable. Lads, I'm telling you, there is no way on this earth an engineer should ever come on a public radio in front of the world and say that. Now, if it was a private radio message, it's still a bit brutal because the guy's halfway through the battle, right? You say it to him after the race, number one. Kick his ass, right? Kick the guy's ass if you want. But you don't go saying it halfway through a race, and especially you don't say it when the whole world is listening. That undermines the guy. But still, he came out clean on the other side. He went back to the Red Bull number 2 team, and what did he do? He wins in Monza. So the guy doesn't buckle under the pressure. He got bullied into submission here, okay? It was a tag team against him. 10 men against 1, right? So anyway, that's Pierre Gasly. Very, very solid. I think he does deserve his position in 9th. Again, I honestly think if he had a better car, he'd be up in the top 5. But anyway, let's move on to the next. Okay, so we've Hamilton, obviously, in 8th position, tied with Gasly. But again, like I said, they've put him into just a bit above Gasly. I gotta admit, lads, that was a real crappy move what he did at the start of the year. As most of you know, I'm sure, at the start of the year, before we even got to round 1, Hamilton announced that he was leaving Mercedes and he was signed up with Ferrari. Now, lads, for a guy that won 5 world championships with Mercedes, he got the gold treatment. He got the golden parachute. He got everything handed to him. And for him to do that, that was a real dick move. It was a dick move. You don't do that. What you should have done, right? And, you know, my heart goes out to Toto Wolff on that one because he did give him everything. And, you know, and for Hamilton then to turn around and even before he jumps into the car, right? He didn't even give 2024 a chance. And he says, oh, sorry, Toto, I'm off at the end of the year. I mean, that was like, guys, the point is this. What if Mercedes did find something? Now, they obviously didn't, as we know, okay? But the point is this. Hamilton could have been wrong, right? Number one, you give them the respect. And Mercedes, they're one of the greatest teams of all time. So, hey, you'd give it at least 2 or 3 races to see, okay, look, you know, I could be wrong here about the 2024 season. We haven't even sat into the car yet. Yeah, you know, let's just see how this plays out for the first 2 or 3 races. And then if things aren't going well, all right, look, you know what? That's it. We're done. We're not going to win the championship this year. We're not going anywhere. Forget it. I'm packing the bags. I'm going to Ferrari. That's what he should have done. And I'm no doubt there wouldn't have been pressure for Hamilton to sign up right there and then, right? It wasn't silly season, and the silly season is where the drivers start to talk to other teams and they sign up with other teams, right? So it wasn't one of those situations where it was a gun to his head and, right, well, Hamilton, you know, if you don't sign now, it's over, man, you know, sorry, we're going to go with someone else. No, the season didn't even bloody start yet, right? And just for the sheer respect, you know, if Mercedes never won the championship, if they were never even got on the podium, well, hey, I'd be all, well, look, you know, clearly he's not happy. Clearly he knows he's not going to win a championship this year. But you'd still give it a few races, you know, just out of sheer respect for your team. Now, having said this, you know, I gotta admit, Hamilton's kind of turned me. He's kind of won me over a little bit. The guy, he was a spoiled little prick. I'm gonna say, and I'm sorry to any Hamilton fans out there, he was a spoiled little prick for years. He was. Bitching, moaning. He invented moaning and bitching on the team radios. And now everybody's starting to do it. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I actually think victory has made him a better man. You know, the guy's had some humble pie here. And I have to admit, I think he's grown up a lot, Hamilton. And, he's had some good results. And, even when he was crying on the podium after his win, was it last year, this year? Sorry, that's brain fart now. But, you could see the sheer emotion from him, and geez, even I'm starting to tear up again. He won me over. I really have to admit it, Very good driver, obviously. I've always said this about Hamilton, so don't think I hate Hamilton. No, I've always said this about him. He's got balls, man. He's got balls. He'll go for gaps that are halfway there, right? He'll go for them. He's solid. He'll get your result. He'll bring food to the table for you. He's consistent. He's got skills. He's got balls. And yeah, solid year. But, even I knew at the start of this year, lads, when he pulled off that little dick move he did with the Ferrari announcement, I even went, oh, well, that's it. He's out of it this year. It's done. There's no way, and I know team bosses, guys, and teams, there's no way they would have given Hamilton the keys to the chocolate factory here. They were going to put all their attention into George Russell. Now, yeah, he had some good results, and he did finish ahead of Russell. But the main attention of this year went to Russell. And that's understandable, Toto Wolff probably got his back up here at the start of the year. I guarantee you Toto Wolff went, Jesus, we haven't even stepped foot in the car and he's out the door, really? Like, can you give us 2 races, 3 races, So he wasn't going to get the attention this year. But anyway, Hamilton, he probably deserves the 8th position. He probably does. But, okay. Maybe you could argue with that. But find it hard to argue with that one, to be honest. Wow, no, this next one is a shock. Nico Hülkenberg. I love saying his name, Hülkenberg, man. Okay, he's in 7th. So they rate him, he was the 7th best driver in 2024. Okay, he was one of the stars of the midfield for the year 2024. He was, not consistently, but he was making a regular appearance in qualifying 3. And he was scoring points for Haas. The new team boss, Komatsu. Is it Komatsu? Sorry. I think he's done a good job for them. It was almost enough to push the squad to P6 in the constructors, while Saudi Kick Sauber clearly liked what they saw by signing him, the German, up for 2025 and beyond, right? Hülkenberg, he definitely is. I mean, the guy, he was very, very promising coming into Formula 1. Winning championships in F2 and etc. and F3 down the other levels. And he was definitely looking like one of the superstars coming in. The guy's just had some bad luck. I mean, now let's be honest, lads. He was up against Kevin Magnussen. Now, I don't know if you know much about Kevin Magnussen, but that guy's solid, man. That guy's old school, ballsy. He's consistent, brave, ballsy. And he's up against Magnussen. That's no easy task, lads. Hülkenberg is a solid, consistent performer. And he did a really, really good job this year. A really good job. I haven't had huge information on him because obviously we've been keeping an eye on the Norris and Verstappen scenario. But, what I've seen of him up to now, solid. What's he going to be like for 2025 and beyond? That's going to come down to the car. The guy is good in the wet. He's good in the dry. There's very little areas where I'd say the guy's weak. I really do. Even when you look at the Netflix, right? He was on for his first podium of all time. And then he went off in the Hockenheim in the wet. Now, some people do argue, oh, he buckled under the pressure, man, right? Okay. But I will say this. It was so bad, the wet in Hockenheim, that even Max Verstappen, Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, they were all spinning off. So if everybody didn't spin off and he was the only one to do it, I would be definitely saying, listen, man, he's a bottler. He doesn't have it in him. He doesn't have it. I'm giving him a bit of rope on this one. And I honestly think that if he does get into a position next year where he can get a podium, I think the guy's going to be mentally tough. I think he's going to be focused. I think he's going to be there. I just think the guy's had a lot of bad luck. And look, it does run, and hey, things do pass. So look, I think well-deserved for Hulkenberg in 7th. Very excellent. Well done, sir. And let's see what he gets for 2025. Okay, into 6th position, George Russell. Well, definitely like we were talking about Hamilton a minute ago, he was the golden boy of Mercedes this year. He got most of the attention, and quite deservedly so, especially with Hamilton's dick move, we're going to call it. But, look, I've always said this about Russell. Very, very good qualifier. He does lack a bit in racing flair, but exceptional qualifier. And, me knowing my experience of the racing world, lads, there's a lot of drivers that come into racing, and you'd know them throughout the years in karting all the way up to the levels that you say, oh, the guy's really good in qualifying, but he lacks a bit in the race. Or it could be the other way around, right? He's a brilliant racer, but he lacks a little bit in qualifying. That does happen. But George Russell is definitely one of those guys that he is a better qualifier, but he can finish off the racing style. So that's that. In a way, it can work to George's advantage here. Get it on pole, get it on off pole, make a good start at the start of the race, into the first corner, and bang. And George Russell will keep it, He'll get you the results, But I think Russell just lacks a little bit where if it did come down to one strategic race move, right, to get a guy, I think he does lack it. Now, if you keep him, if he gets in first position, chances are he's going to keep it. And he is solid. He's solid in racing. He'll keep the position. So there'd be no fear there. But if you're going into the dark demon mode, right, and where you're going into the darkness and you need to pull off a race maneuver from God, George Russell's not going to do it for you. Now, he might, in fairness, and I'll give him that, he might actually try it, and he's got the balls to do it. He just doesn't have, maybe, dare I say, the skill level for that. Maybe. But, lads, he finished 8th to teammate Lewis Hamilton's 3rd in last year's standings. But he came back fighting to lead the Mercedes charge. This time out, lads, he added 4 poles, 2 victories to his tally. Las Vegas, a particularly impressive display. And he was unlucky not to win a 3rd after being disqualified over the technical breach in Belgium. So, hands off to George Russell in 6th. Solid, and I think he's going to be one to watch out for next year if Mercedes get the car in a good place. Now, moving on to Carlos Sainz. Now, he's technically in 5th here. He's equal, actually. I kind of gave away the Hamilton there a minute ago, but I won't do it this. Himself and another driver here, they're saying that they're equal in 4th, even though they've got another driver ahead of Carlos. So, well, Carlos is in 6th, right? Let's just call it what it is. Carlos, this poor guy, gets demoted from Ferrari even before the season starts. I mean, my God, what a way to start off the year, knowing that this is it. This is it. And I can guarantee you, he wasn't in the racing talks at the start of the year before when Hamilton was in there with them, They weren't saying, listen, Carlos, we're thinking about bringing Hamilton in, and are you okay with this? No, he would have just found out, listen, sorry, Carlos, Hamilton's coming in next year. This is your last year with us. And even for him, can you imagine what that feels like, lads? Right? You haven't even proven yourself this year for 2024. Imagine you're at your boss, your job, and your boss is there, right? He's got a new project for you for 2024, okay? And he's like, all right, John, let's go with this, man, okay? You haven't even got your cup of coffee, sat at your desk on a Monday morning, first week in January, and you haven't even started on the project, and your boss has come over and, hey, look, sorry, John, we've got somebody coming in next year for you, replacing you. You'd be like, what? Can I at least see what happens? Can you imagine how that feels? Imagine how much that hurts? Man. Sorry, guys. So, this guy, he's been running through the mud here, lads. And, I gotta say, I have to say I was wrong about Carlos. This guy's a tough nut, man. I didn't think much of him when he came into Formula 1. I just didn't feel his pace, Definitely a exceptional, brilliant wet weather driver, no question. But that was it. You need the whole package, lads, to be a very, very good driver. The whole package. Wet, dry, qualifying, race, everything. So, he just didn't do it for me. Nice guy, yeah, but even this year when he got the appendicitis and then he came back 2 weeks, was it 2 weeks later? To do that, lads, and come back and he had a fantastic result. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable what he did. And the guy's got some balls, man. The guy's got some grit. And I was wrong about him. I was so wrong about this guy. And I'll put my hands in the air and admit it. Absolutely no question. And, any Carlos Sainz fans out there, you should be proud of your boy. Honestly, fantastic pilot. My heart bleeds for the guy. And just a bloody nice guy, man. A nice guy. He experienced all sorts of emotions this year. Obviously, and he brushed it to the side. The appendicitis, delivering arguably his strongest F1 campaign to date. A gutsy win in Australia. And a charging drive to victory in Mexico. The standout moments. Definitely a guy who deserves fourth position. In fact, might even give him in the top 3. But okay, let's go with that for now. But fantastic season for Carlos Sainz. Okay, and coming in level with Carlos, but they put him ahead of the pecking order here. Oscar Piastri. Well. Oscar Piastri. I gotta say, folks, I rate him right up there with Alonso. Personally, I think Fernando Alonso is the best driver on the grid. And I'm saying this without question. The way he brought 2 world championships up against Schumacher, the way he took Schumacher on, and that boy hasn't lost it. Yeah, he's getting older, but lads, this guy's in his 40s and you can see what he's doing, right? He's had some pretty solid results this year. I would rate Oscar Piastri right up them. There's a bit of cockiness to him. He gets stuck in. I like him. He wants to destroy the opposition. I gotta admit, I would rate him tougher than Lando Norris in terms of he wants the fight and he'll give you a fight. That's what you want. You want a guy who gets stuck in the trenches, boy. He'll lead by example. And, yeah, he had some unfortunate... I suppose, in general, he had an unfortunate year. Because, yes, I've been arguing, as you probably know, I've been arguing that for Lando Norris to win the championship, they should have let Oscar Piastri slow down and let him by. Right? And they should have. So, they did that for 3 races, but then they actually finally copped on. And then they decided to let Lando Norris through. But, Oscar Piastri, he did nothing wrong this year, right? He didn't. Like, it's the team's job to slow you down, if anything, or get you to pull over. But they didn't do anything. So, hey, Oscar Piastri just went, all right, screw this. I'm going to keep going. I'm not helping out my teammate if I'm not asked to do it. Now, he was eventually, but he just got stuck in, man. And then Australia taking the checkered flag first in Hungary. Sorry, not Australia. Taking the flag in Hungary. Backed up with that brilliant attacking and defence display at Azerbaijan. And played a crucial role in McLaren's first Constructors' title since '98. He did. They needed the 2 cars up there in the pecking order to get that the Constructors' Championship. Oscar Piastri, he'll get your result. He's consistent. Extremely important as a racing driver. You have to be consistent. And this guy, I think he's one to watch for the next few years, lads. Oscar Piastri, solid, well deserved to be in 4th. Okay, and coming in 3rd position, lads. And I think you're probably getting to see where we're getting here with the top 3 here, where it's shaping up. But Charles Leclerc in 3rd. Well, I don't know about you, lads, and let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think... It seemed like he was really quiet all year. He wasn't getting the headlines. It seemed like he just sort of crept up out of nowhere and just sort of tippy-toed around the place and got a couple of results here, got a couple of results there. It seemed like a quiet year for the guy. The attention wasn't on him, But I definitely rate Leclerc. Definitely he's consistent, solid, brilliant qualifier, brilliant racer too. Brilliant. He's both packages, which I think that's why this guy is definitely up there and thereabouts with Piastri and Alonso. He's got both going for him. And he's solid, consistent. And all around a nice guy. Very marketable too. Really good looking dude, right? He's got all the Ferrari. You can see him on social media. He's got he's jumping into a Ferrari in Monaco, right? With the tux on, or the Hugo Boss design suit, whatever it is, right? So the guy's very marketable for Ferrari. He's a brilliant driver. He couldn't join the fight with Norris and Verstappen, obviously. But I mean, it was still a solid year by him for a team that was struggling. And he achieved one of his childhood dreams with victory at Monaco. Stunning performance. Around that, he bagged 2 more wins. Monza, obviously, with 3 poles as well. He's racking up the poles here very fast. So I think, with himself and Hamilton next year, I definitely don't think Hamilton's going to get the attention that he got at McLaren. You saw that with a lot of drivers. Even when Vettel won 4 world championships at Red Bull, he didn't get all the attention at Ferrari. Ferrari is more of the Hollywood movie star than the driver. And they do treat it like that. That Ferrari is the attention. Ferrari is the superstar, not the driver. And they do have that attitude. So, look, maybe I'm wrong. And maybe they'll give all the attention to Hamilton. I just don't see it happening. They haven't done that since Schumacher back in the day. And that was with a different team boss. Jean Todt was the team boss back then. So we'll see. But definitely, he'll be a challenger for next year for races, providing Ferrari do give him the car as well. And he won't make life easy for Lewis Hamilton. That is for sure. Okay, we're going to do the top 2 at the exact same time here, lads. As you know, if you've been watching me before, this is where I get wound up. Oh, Lord, I need to take a chill pill, man. Okay. Max Verstappen in at number 2. Obviously, Lando Norris in at number 1. Are you shocked? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. I have to admit, as you know, I like to be fair. I'm starting to turn into a Max Verstappen fan again. But even halfway through the season, you probably know I wasn't a Verstappen fan. But I was still batting for him when he was wronged in certain situations. I'd still go against him too, but I do that for all the drivers. I have to admit, Verstappen in second, I don't believe that. I don't agree with this. I think Verstappen should have been number 1. Obviously, as we all know, he was dominant at the start of the year, unbelievable dominance, and it gave him that three victory cushion over Lando Norris in second. So what am I saying? In other words, he had over 75 points of a lead. Just unbelievable. So in other words, he could have sat at home for 3 races. If Lando Norris won the next 3, he'd still be in the lead, right? He had that much of a cushion. Now, he didn't slack off in their year. He didn't at all. He didn't go to sleep. The problem was with Red Bull is all of a sudden, as we all know, Christian Horner had these sexual assault allegations against him. Adrian Newey decides to leave the team. Everything just went nuclear at Red Bull. But I gotta admit, even for the team itself, they did a fantastic job of keeping the train on the tracks here. All right? It could have easily just spiraled out of control. It really could have. And then they could have lost the championship, the Drivers' Championship. But they managed to keep it together. They did. Now, obviously, they didn't win outright at the end or midway through the year to the end. They didn't. But they managed to just keep the bloody train on the tracks. And they knew that's all they had to do. Now, Adrian Newey leaving halfway through the season, which is just not heard of. It's unbelievable. But the fact that Verstappen kept the focus, Christian Horner kept the focus, the Red Bull team in general, they kept the focus. It was incredible. It really was. It was a brilliant... And let's not forget Verstappen's unbelievable race win in Brazil. Lads, that was, I gotta admit, I've always been saying he's not ever a Senna, a Schumacher level, and I still don't think he is, because you have to pull these exceptional results out a lot of times, okay? Now, maybe he will start doing this. Maybe he will, and prove me wrong. But what he did in Brazil was, I would say, almost Senna and Schumacher territory. If he does it another couple of consistent more times, I'll put him there. But what he did was unreal. It was unreal what he did in Brazil. You know, kept the composure, just kept the cool. And, you know, I think a lot of people do think that Verstappen loses his cool every now and then. Obviously, when he came to Formula 1 at the start, he did. All right, he was a bit of a loose cannon, I suppose you could say. And he'd have a couple of crashes here and there, and he was like the biggest crasher. He had the record for biggest crashes at one stage. So, but he's grown up a lot, matured a lot since then. And it was, honestly, I think, excuse me, I think Verstappen deserves the top spot on the podium. The fact that, again, guys, you know, it's not all about the race. Well, it is all about the race wins, of course. That's what you're there for. It's all about race winning. But sometimes when you go into the dark moments, the demons come. And this team really showed what grit they have, that they don't give up. And what they went through internally, in the internal part of the team here, they could have exploded and everything could have just melted down. Gone. And they didn't. They kept it together. Now, you could argue at me, well, you know, they didn't win races all the time at the end of the year. No, because look, McLaren did gain some advantage here. And I think as well, Red Bull actually lost a bit. So it was actually on both sides here. It's not like Verstappen kept the you know, that dominant level, but Lando Norris and McLaren rose to that level. I think it was two ways. You know what I mean? Kind of like golf, right? One golfer can start scoring birdies, but then the other guy could start scoring bogeys, right? Whereas you could have, on another hand, one guy scoring birdies, but the guy stays on par. So it took two teams to lose a bit of pace and gain some pace. But phenomenal. Let's look at Lando Norris. Okay, Norris, well, look, I was gunning for Norris this year. The guy, I think, is a nice guy, but look, yeah, lovely, whatever, who cares at the end of the day. Nice guys, and I don't agree with this nice guys finish last crap, okay? I don't believe in that bollocks. You're either a killer or you're not. You can still be a nice guy and a killer, all right? Norris, he ain't a killer, man. He's a great qualifier. He's a good racer, you know? He'll go for moves, but when it comes down to the real nitty-gritty, the real dark side and pressure of those battles, and believe me, I know what they're like, lads, and when it really matters, the guy lets off the gas. He lets off the gas. And Verstappen got the edge on him mentally this year. I knew it halfway through the season. He got the edge on him, you know, and I don't think he deserves it. In fact, honestly, I wouldn't put Norris in the top three, to be honest, because the mentality he didn't maximize. Now, I've also been saying too that, and I've been shouting it from the rooftop, the biggest part of his fall this year was that he didn't have McLaren backing him. And he didn't. But when we're talking about just the driver alone now, okay? The driver alone, not the whole package. The whole package will be the driver and the team, but we're on about the driver. People are saying, does he have it? I don't think he does have it, man. God, I feel like an a-hole when I say that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for any McLaren fans. I hope I'm wrong about the guy. You know, I think he's such a nice guy, you know, and I want the guy to do well. I really do. And I was going for him this year. I just think he lacks the killer, the shark, the monster, because the moment that racing helmet comes on, and you need to be an absolute cold-blooded serial killer, you know? And I don't think he has it. Guys, we're going to wrap it up here, but that's the top 10. What do you think? Lads? I'd be interested to know. Thanks for watching.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move. He's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front from fifth all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter Walsh.